What is up, Grizz and family? I know y'all don't expect to see me here. I already saw King Meeks trying to come in here to hate on Daniel before the show even started. Meeks, I see you. He is a Dookie, D-double-O Dookie. But we're coming out here. The Grizz just beat the Toronto Raptors 138-107. I didn't watch the first half, so in my opinion, the first half didn't happen. From what I've been told, it didn't need to happen. I saw all we needed to see. But good night for the Grizz. Ja Morant was Ja Morant. Jaren Jackson was Jaren Jackson. Scottie Pippen was prime Steph Curry. All that we expected from the team. And as our guy Heaven's Healthy said, this is a good night. But coming off this win, we're going to get into it. I've got my guy joining me today. You guys can probably guess who it is. I heard he made a couple of y'all mad last time we were here, so we're going to come out hot tonight. Hopefully, I don't piss anyone off. I can just leave that to my guy. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring this guy in. Ryan. You're on mute, so you need to come off.
For some, again,
I was about to say.
Twice in a week.
Gotcha. Happens to me normally. But Ryan, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. I was in the same boat as you. My kids had basketball tournament tonight, so I missed most of the first half as well until like the final 4 minutes of the second quarter. It was like, okay, this is not going great. And then if you watch the second half, you're like, how were we ever down?
Yeah.
Like, to be down 6 to turn around and win by 30 in 24 minutes is an incredible accomplishment, I feel like.
Yeah, right before we started the show, I looked at my wife and I was like, they were down 6 at halftime, by the way. Just in case you wanted to know. But yeah, shout out to our guys hopping in. We got all the regulars. Drew, I'm also surprised on how to click the right buttons. I did go through a little mini tutorial before we started just to knock off the rust. Wayno's happy to see Ryan. He might be the only one from what I've heard, but at least one person's glad you're here, Ryan. But, man, that's the truth. They're down by 6. I'm looking at the timeline. I'm only seeing unhappy campers. But I come home. I get the kid ready for bed. I put him down. And then I'm like, yeah, this is the Grizzlies. This is awesome. This is what we want to see. But you see here, I've got the Ja hoodie tonight. I'm repping the Ja hoodie because not just this game, last game too, we've seen the Ja Morant we know and loved. And I want to start off with him tonight. I know you got to see a little bit of the first half because you told me he tweaked his knee, which quit scaring me like that. I don't want that in my life. But I saw the second half. You saw the second half. What are you seeing from Ja these past 2 games?
Well, first of all, it's nice to see him play 2 games in a row. And then also, like, if you take away Ja and Jaren from our team, it's essentially the Toronto Raptors, right? Like, it's just a different talent level when Ja and Jaren are out there against a team like the Raptors. And they showed it. Like, they flexed their muscles. We are the 2 best players out here, and we can do what we want whenever we want. And that's what they did. Like, Ja looked like he was kind of just like it was a pickup game. Like, he didn't really have to push himself, pick his spots. If, someone guarding him was like, all right, it's time to go by and embarrass this kid, he did it. And Jaren did the same thing, which is incredible from where we've been at in the past with the Grizzlies to have 2 guys who can turn it on and off like that.
Yeah, I mean, and Jaren, I'm going to leave Lauren's comment up here. Jaren is just like, well, what's the Kobe Bryant commercial? Are you the same animal but a different beast? Type of thing. What does that mean, Kobe Bryant? Yeah, that is what Jaren feels like this year because he is just doing things that we saw him do last year, but it just feels like he knows. Like, he knows what everybody has seen in him for a couple of years now, which is, brother, if you just go, there's nobody can stop you.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop you. And so it's awesome to see. But I do want to spend some time, especially on Ja, to get started tonight. Like you said, it's nice to see him just play 2 games in a row. Like, health is a good thing. Speaking of health, before the game started, I was like, we might go 18 deep tonight. I think we went 20 deep by the end. Garbage time is part of that.
I think if there was a 15th guy on the roster, They would have played 15. I think it was 14, right? They ended up with 14.
I don't know how many, but we did go 20 deep tonight. So 20 players played for the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them only played single-digit minutes. But back to Ja, he's healthy. But more than anything, he looks like himself, which I think is part of the mental game with him. We've talked about that a little bit for sure. But I know our guy Drew's in here, and I know you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, which is communism is bad. And we're seeing a little bit less of it as of the past couple of games. So I know you've noticed it. Tell me what you're seeing with that.
So I don't like, to me, Ja, because when I talked with when Daniel asked me about this on Sunday, like, is he injured? Is he going to be out for a while? Like, just have no clue. He's purely just screwing with Adam Silver. Like, like we went from all of a sudden the man can't lift his arm over his shoulder. He might be out till All-Star break to he played the next night, was great, and then played tonight, was great. Like, it's just, I guess we can just go ahead and plan that he's not going to play nationally televised games. So, yeah, I mean, we mentioned that before, like, if he needed to take a step back to kind of get right, and he did, deactivating Twitter and all that kind of stuff, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. We know that he's going to come back and give the performances that he does, right? He can dominate when he wants to, but just in the regular season, I do think they're just in the mode of let's get everybody else involved. I can score 30 when I need to score 30 when my team needs me to. And that's kind of what he did tonight, right? Like, no one else was really going, it seemed like, in the first half. I missed most of it, but just box score watching seemed that way. And he was just like, all right, Jaren looked like he wasn't playing well to start the game. And so Ja was like, okay, no one's really got it going. Now I can flip that switch. And that is a vet move, right? Like, we've seen that most people who are 24, 25 superstars, the elite of the elite have that ability. Not too many people have that ability. And Ja has shown that he can do that. Now, it drives us crazy, right? When he can just take 2 weeks where he looks bad or he gets frustrated. Right before he took that break, he looked clearly frustrated. And it just looked like his game was off because he would get frustrated. So maybe taking that step back, reevaluating like what the goal is. All right, we have an end goal, and that's to get to the playoffs, and then we can go crazy, right? Let me refocus myself and get back to, hey, we're in this Euro 5-out style. Let me still create for everybody. And if I need to, I'll step in and take over if they need me to. And that kind of how it felt tonight. At least from what I saw from basically the second half on, or towards the end of the second quarter on.
Well, and see, I didn't catch the second quarter. I caught the third quarter when they were down by 6 to the Toronto Raptors, and John's like, nah, we're not going to be down by 6 to the Toronto Raptors. But that kind of speaks to part of what I was talking with Daniel about when Ja was out. And we're talking about, like, he just looks off, right? He's sitting on the second row of the bench, like, what is going on? And we were talking about Ja's facilitator being the best version of Ja there is. But my opinion was Ja the facilitator comes out of Ja the dominator. Like, when Ja's dominating teams, that's when he's the best at facilitating because they just collapse on him and everything opens up for everyone else. And I thought you saw that tonight, right? Yeah. He didn't get a ton of assists, but the ball was popping around and it all started with him because eventually they're like, okay, we're going to foul you all the way to the bucket. They hand checked him all the way to the bucket, by the way. Yeah. Barely got any of those calls. And then we're going to collapse 3, and then you swing, and somebody's got an open shot. All right. And so it's awesome to see, but also, honestly, saw him smiling tonight. Like, he was
having fun. Yeah, he looked like he was enjoying himself. Yeah.
That's the best version of Ja Morant, right? Is when he's having fun playing basketball. I thought we saw it in the last game, but a smooth 26, 4, and 5 in 25 minutes tonight for Ja. 16 in the third quarter. Didn't even have to score in the fourth to get there. So love to see it from Ja. And we're going to get into a handful of these guys tonight because there's some emergences happening that I think people have been waiting on. There have been some really strong performances from people that have been inconsistent somewhat this year. Want to talk about it all. But first thing I want to talk about, and for everyone who wants us to talk about trades, we will get there. We know the deadlines, but I promise you we are aware. But I want to talk about our trade deadline lineup that we had tonight. Because the Grizzlies got a few guys back healthy.
Ironically, the day before.
I know, right? Magic. Yeah. But before the game even started, in my head, I was like, I think they'll go 18 deep tonight just because Taylor Jenkins can. Plus, you do want to get these guys, they are going to try and make some moves, see if they open up, get these guys on the floor, show teams they can play. But leads to a lot of questions the Grizzlies haven't had to answer this year. So I want your thoughts. We got Marcus back, Vince back, we got Gigi playing. Lot of guys trying to fill just a few minutes. So what are your thoughts on how that's going to shake out?
Yeah, I mean, I love conspiracy theories. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So to me, it was ironic that all of a sudden 3 guys are available, to play tonight. One being the key. I think the most obvious one is Marcus Smart. And he was messing with the finger all night. You could see it. He didn't want to shoot. He didn't want to pass. He didn't want to do anything. Yeah. So, the mind starts running a little bit. And you're like, did the Nets ask to see if he can actually still run up and down court? Can this guy still play before we do this? Like, can he actually still run? And he did some patented Marcus Smart things, right? Like, he took a charge on Scotty Barnes, just classic, like the easiest charge call in history of the NBA.
Yeah. And Scotty returned the favor, to be fair.
Yeah. But it did feel ironic that the timing of it. Hey, the deadline's tomorrow. Guys who haven't played in a month or two are all of a sudden available tonight, and where they're going to give it a go. That's just me. It could mean nothing. Like, maybe that was kind of their struggles in the first half, were those guys getting back and just not used to anything. Like, Marcus is not really wanting to do anything with the ball. Vince obviously hasn't played for a majority of the season. Like, it could be just purely a rust thing, and they're wanting to get them back in action as quickly as possible. But the timing stuck out to me.
Yeah. I want to see you go full tinfoil hat tonight. Daniel said if you don't go tinfoil hat, we're going to riot. And I tend to agree. Didn't bring you on for calm takes. Let's just say it that way. But, I mean, everybody, I think, would agree. I'm going to let my camera bounce for a second here. The timing is more than auspicious. Yes. There's a $10 word for you. I'm not positive I used it correctly, to be honest.
Well, it's like Kevin Durant, all of a sudden, he's not playing tonight, and he's linked to all this stuff. It's like, it's just the next, today and tomorrow is basically every kind of questionable. You're like, oh. Yeah. Like when the Bulls had that announcement where they re-signed Lonzo Ball for 2-year, $20 million, extremely tradable contract, I was like, oh, okay. Right. So what's Lonzo going to be involved with? Because they got Kevin Huerter, they got all these pieces. They said they're going to move. I'm like, okay, what's the next trade coming? Because that's a very obvious. Oh, we want to keep him long term, 2 years, $10 million to fit in with Kevin Huerter's salary. That's something that can be moved. So those are the kind of alarm bells that go off for the next 24, 36 hours for me.
Right. I know. I'm supposed to work tomorrow. I've got a full day of calls, and I'm like, brother. Yeah, about that. Yeah, hey, you guys got this. Cool. But that we'll get to more trade stuff later. The Jimmy to the Warriors thing, I think, kills the KD to Grizz thing. I thought there was a real potential for that. Slim, but realistic. I think that probably kills that. But we'll get into all that later. We'll also get into some other guys later. I see a lot of our Edie lovers in here tonight. You're going to feel the love later. Just let us get there. I promise you, though. We saw that performance tonight. But 100% on board with that. Like, you see these guys, the way it's playing out. Guys are just playing last second. To me, I see a lot of people like, oh, no, the Grizzlies aren't going to make a move. They're trying to see what they have, and all these guys are not going to make a move. Right. I tend to lean towards you. Now, another move may not be available.
Yeah.
Right now, I do feel like Cam Johnson to Grizzlies has some real heat. I also feel like the Nets have shafted the Grizzlies at almost every given opportunity so far. But I think they get all these guys out there and say, hey, we've got all these young players. All of them can play. You've seen Jake contribute all year, which is the biggest question mark on the team as far as those young wings go, right? And he has performed. Has it been super consistent? Not necessarily. Has it looked like he's going to be like a top 10 guy for, he's sort of an end-of-bench guy, but he's a young player that can prove himself and has. You get Vince out there, you get all these other guys out there. It's like, hey, we've got this. We can make this work. So I fall in line with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, like, it does get, if they don't do anything, if they don't do any consolidation, there is, I think there's going to be games, maybe post All-Star break where they try out different lineups to see how they look, to try to prepare for a playoff run. Because when you have a bunch of players who are relatively similar, not to put Jake LaRavia on par with Gigi, like they're not on par, right? But if you put them with someone like Scottie Pippen, just a lot of guys that do similar things, a lot of complaints about the coaching staff, and especially Taylor Jenkins, has been like that paralysis by analysis, right? Like, now you're looking at your stat sheet and you're looking at your analytics, the plus minuses to be like, well, this lineup has worked together. So I think, the idea that people want to consolidate is a smart one, because you want it to be clear cut. You don't want to, after every game, be like, maybe we should have played Vince Williams this game. You just don't want to have that in your coaching staff or around your locker room. So the consolidation makes a lot of sense, because it just makes it a clear path forward for what your likely rotation is going to be, without the question marks of second guessing yourself if something doesn't go right for you.
Right. 100% agree. And I mean, I think we both land towards a consolidation. I think we both think there's moves to be made. We'll get into all of that later. But I do want to keep getting into some of these guys tonight. It is a post-game show. Sometimes I tend to forget that. Daniel likes to remind me. I get distracted. But let's go ahead and hop into one of the main guys. I don't even know if we need to talk about him for more than 30 seconds, because it seems to be the same thing every night.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? 3 straight games for 30-plus points in his career, I think. That was the first time he's done that in 3 straight games, I believe.
Should have dropped 40. Missed 4 free throws 3 games ago, but hey, that's okay. We forgive. We forgive.
If he doesn't have such a mediocre first half, he might have gotten 50 in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, Triple J is just like the maturity growth to where he doesn't fall apart when he struggled in the past. Like, he fell apart when he struggled in the past. And now it's just, I'm going to continue to keep going, because I know it's a mismatch. You have no chance. Yep. Like, even if he struggled early against Scotty Barnes, it didn't stop him from keep going at Scotty Barnes, because he knew that he could dominate. And then things started to fall and he got on a roll, right? So that, like, maturity of that is such a huge thing. And it's one of the most positive signs for our franchise. He's been incredible.
Well, and there's a couple of things that really stand out to me. One, like you were saying, he's constantly it's a mismatch.
Yeah.
There is no one he won't go at.
Right.
I mean, he's going at Giannis the other night.
Yeah.
And I think Giannis and Porzingis have been the two, right? AD can hit or miss in the past, but he hasn't just dominated Jaren. Like, Jaren hasn't been like, okay, I can't go against this guy. Sort of in Giannis and Porzingis, and was not afraid of Giannis the other night. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. And I think a big part of it is the second thing I noticed, which is he is playing through contact all the time. Like, he gets fouled, it doesn't matter. Like, his goal is to get an and one on every possession in the paint. Like, I don't know if you notice this. He puts the shot up, which he goes left and right now. Daniel thinks he's just a left-handed guy. He goes left or right. Saw it tonight.
He puts it up. But, yeah, he goes both.
Watches it go through the bucket, and then he sticks the other hand up like, where's my call? But it's just there the entire time. And so him playing through that physicality and not, like, he doesn't back down to it, and he's, like, trying to score. He's not trying to get the call. He's trying to score. Has just made him, again, same animal but a different beast.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome to watch. I mean, we come in here every night and we just talk about Jaren and how awesome it is. 5 rebounds from him tonight. So somebody will think about a way to hate him. There you go. 5 rebounds tonight. So somebody's still going to hate on him there. But let's move on. Let's move on to somebody who I know we have plenty of people. I know someone's sitting here probably going to tag me on Twitter later. Let's talk about Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Best I've seen him tonight. By far.
He was awesome. I don't think he missed a shot, right? Like he went like 5 for 5 or something like that. Oh, he's got it on. I should read the comments. Sorry.
Yeah, you should.
It's literally on the screen. I mean, like he has a very specific role, right? Like be a physical enforcer, go for the offensive rebounds, create space for shot. Like there was I can't remember his third or the fourth, but he set a screen on the guy who's guarding Jaw. I cannot remember his name.
Mitchell?
Jamal Shed, I think is his name. Jamal Shed fell over, and then he crushed Kelly Olynyk, I think it was, on the roll. And Jaw just basically had to walk into a floater, right?
Yeah.
Like
he looked down at him. He goes, great. It was awesome.
He literally walked into a floater and was kind of like, thanks, man. Like his job is simple right now, right? Because I just don't think the coaching staff feels comfortable taxing him with a lot of responsibility. And they shouldn't, right? He shouldn't have to bear a lot of responsibility. He should just get the after effects of, screens that he creates with the lobs and, getting offensive rebounds, creating extra possessions. And he's done that extremely well lately, right? Like I do think like a month or two ago, he was I think he had some quotes saying like he was trying to figure it out exactly what he needed to do. And I know there's going to be people that saying, hey, he's 7'4", throw it to him in the post. Like I understand that ideology, but what he's doing, creating for a supernova scoring at the rim is more important. Like it just is.
Right.
And so he has done his job extremely well lately. And it's just a very encouraging sign to see.
Yeah. And I think there's something that I personally myself have underestimated with Edey this year is the lack of consistent minutes with the guy who you're really built to screen for. You're brought in to, like you said, facilitate for with those screens in that size. And there have been a lot of consistent minutes with Ja. But you see that slowly developing. You see him learning. I'm leaving this comment up from Rage Tempo because that's the one thing that no one's ever questioned. Yeah. Right. Listen, I'm not saying he's going to win the fight, but just like me, I'm never thinking I'm going to win the fight, but I'll get in it. Right? Like,
I'll be in there.
That is, please nobody pick on me. Don't try me. I'm very fragile, but he is built for it. But we talked about it last time, right? He's a rookie. He's got to learn, right? And not only is he a rookie, he's a rookie who has not played basketball for very long.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when did he start? Middle of high school? Is that when he started playing basketball?
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty late.
Yeah.
I don't think he took it like serious till it was later in high school.
Right.
Where he started to consider it. Yeah.
Have a lot of learning to do. I know a lot of people are surprised to see me praise him. I've never been an Edey hater, but hey, that's okay. But we've always said like he's got to learn, and you see him get it high, staying high, get it high, staying high. Tonight, what I love from him is he was constantly getting position. Like in the past, when he first came in, he's just trying to be big. I'm just bigger than you, so I can get it. Right. Tonight, you see him against, admittedly, Kelly Olynyk is not a bad center, but he's not a Steven Adams either. But you're going against a veteran NBA center, and you're getting position, right? And that's what you want to see from Edey. So he's clearly learning at a super rapid rate. That's one thing he's done all season long. You absolutely love to see it. It'd be interesting to see him do it against tougher competition. It would have been interesting to see him against Hartenstein coming up, honestly, but obviously Hartenstein is out for a second, so it will be Tice, I guess. I bet Tice is playing by that point. For
recently
them.
Added 6'8" Tice.
Recently added 6'8" Tice. But this is the kind of thing you want to see from him, and then see him go against really good competition. Like, how does it translate when you're playing against the guys you need to see in the playoffs? I would love for them to get a veteran center, but he just keeps looking better and better. And to the point where I think we all are starting to get faith, like, hey, he's going to pan out. Just a matter of this year. It's going to look good. But I want to give him a shout out.
Yeah, he deserves a shout out because he's doing what he's asked really well right now. Excuse me.
Hartenstein's
And
playing tonight?
did who? I'm sorry.
I thought Hartenstein got hurt.
I hadn't checked. I didn't
No,
know
he's playing. Never mind. There we go.
Maybe you will see him on Saturday.
There you go. Shout out Edward. I thought he was hurt, so maybe I just made that up. But hey, real quick, I wanted you to get back to what you're doing. Listen to Heaven's Healthy. Hit the like button. Not to mention, this is a family. Heaven's Healthy. Let us know how that test went. Everybody's curious to know. If you're in here in a good mood, we're going to assume it went well, but let us know for sure. But keep going with what you're saying. I did interrupt you, sort of.
No. Yeah, so like he's doing really well in what his role is. And I just, if you're a big Edey fan, I just would not expect all of a sudden he's going to start getting post touches all the time. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen, right? And maybe that is something they can utilize maybe after a season in when he feels more comfortable, right? He gets used to the speed. He gets a little quicker with his movements because he just takes too long right now, you know? Maybe that is something where eventually, if everything's not working in the 24-second shot clock, they do have a last second go to if they need to, and he can turn around and hit that little floater. Yep. You know, or turn and put somebody in the basket on the, to the square. I just would not expect, like I would not expect all of a sudden for him to start getting a bunch of paint touches, right? Like if you're a Zach Edey fan, this is likely going to be his role for the remainder of this season. Beyond that, we'll see. But if he exceeds at what he's doing now, he is a useful, useful part of the rotation.
Yep. And first off, shout out to Heaven. I see a lot of shout outs in the chat. He has been absolutely awesome. Fan of the show for a long time. And shout out to you. That is, we all talked about last time, adult tests are the real deal. The adult tests are scary. But getting back to Edey, Toronto fans apparently loved Edey tonight. That kind of makes sense. That what you're talking about goes back to sort of what we talked about on our first ever edition of the Grizzleverse last show, when Daniel brought Xavier Dotson up and what he was talking about with Edey. And I didn't think that was crazy at all because I didn't agree with Xavier, but it was a difference of perspective, which is I don't believe Edey's brought in to be a huge offensive threat, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he's brought in to be on this team. I think he's there to facilitate, like you were saying, for Josh, set those screens, be those rebounders, be an opportunistic scorer. Like you're there to clean up. You're there to catch those lobs, to catch those drop-offs when they collapse on Ja, right? If you have Ja, you have Jaren, you have Dez, then I'm like, you're just not brought in to be a threat. You're there to facilitate for those guys. So that's where the difference comes in, right? I didn't think he was crazy at all. But you see him figuring that out more and more and more and more. So it's really encouraging to see. Love to see it. Gary, I'm going to call you Jerry because that reminds me of Parks and Rec. This is the second time in 2 shows that we're coming in praising Zach Edey and someone's getting mad about it. We love what he did tonight. There you go. I'm very excited. I probably woke my kid up with how excited I just got. So Jerry, we are literally saying only good things. We're on the same page. Not sure why you're mad. Oh, we got Gary. Same thing. Parks and Rec. You're Jerry now. But listen, really good things from Zach. We're sitting here only to seriously praise him. He's done really good. The past few games, he continues to learn. We'll see apparently against Oklahoma City in the next game to see what he does against Hartenstein, which I'm excited. I'm really excited to see that. I want to see what he's done in the last few games and how it transfers. So, but can't stick around with him all night. We got some things to get to. Want to get to a couple of other guys. Real quick hitters. Brandon Clark continues to look like Brandon Clark, which is one of the best things that you can say. Like, you just never know what it's going to be like after an Achilles. And I think I saw somebody, it's the same stats thing that keeps us like Grizzlies players be at the top of it. I think it was effective defensive field goal percentage, maybe. I don't even know if that's a stat. But it was something about BC defending really well. Continues to just have high IQ defense, which I was so frustrated about with him for so many years, and he just flipped it. this year. Love to see it.
Yeah.
Jalen Wells didn't do much tonight, but continues to be consistent. Luke Kennard had one more bad game from 3. Glad he got him out these past 2 games, so we see him next time. Real quick, main other guy I want to talk about, so we'll talk all about all the other guys when we get to trades, is going to be GG Jackson. And Titan MVP, shout out to you again, coming in with the super chat. Appreciate you. We are definitely going to be talking about this in just a minute. So we're going to get to it now. We're going to finish up the game. But I'm going to save your comment. We have not forgotten about you. But GG Jackson, second game in a row, he's looked like what you want to see out of GG. So come on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most noticeable thing with him is the size. Like he just looks like he's been in the weight room, right? He's always been more of an upright player. Like he's never going to be like a low, probably blow by people player, but he just has a natural pick his spots kind of feel, right? Like he just has a natural basketball feel that, you would think everybody in the NBA has, but at that speed, probably half of them really don't, right? But he just kind of has that feel, and he hasn't even scratched the surface level of his talent ability, right? Like he's a 3-level scorer, can be. The biggest problem for him is probably the defensive end. He's going to need steps with that, and that's just going to take time and reps. But like, I'm not trying to cause anything if there's anybody here that's a Toronto Raptors fan, but GG or Scotty Barnes, is there a huge difference? Like, is there? Like, just notoriety and because he's the star player of the Raptors? Is there a huge difference enough to say, like, Scotty Barnes is on a whole nother plane than GG Jackson?
No. Okay. I was about to say, I was actually going to go in a different direction. Scotty, I think, has been a better defender to this point in the career.
That's fair. Yeah.
But the offensive potential of GG is just through the roof. And Scotty is obviously like much more of an offensive threat than people thought he would be coming into the league. But GG is just on another plane. Yeah.
He's barely, like, he's missed most of the season. He's barely scratched the surface. I'm just not even going to acknowledge it at this point.
I feel I can get you. I'll keep just bringing him up. Shout out. That's how you know you got some really good fans in the show. Keep bringing it back from the last show. I love to see it. Love to see it.
No, I'm not going to say GG's untradeable, right? Because there's probably a player out there for everybody. But he would be, like, if you're talking Cam Johnson, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Like, I'm not including GG and Cam Johnson. It's not going to happen.
Agreed. I think everybody, when they saw the report of the Heat asking for GG for Jimmy Butler, everybody, it was a collective, like, nah. I think it was agreement across the fan base. No, you don't get GG for Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right. It's for a rental, for a disgruntled star who will not be here past this year. No. That doesn't happen, right? Everybody sees what GG could be. Everybody knew what GG could be last year, right? You saw it. What's encouraging to me is you've seen it now. He's shown the flashes as he got back. He's been knocking the rust off. And then 2 games in a row, sure, there's a team defensive lapses, but you've seen the individual potential on defense. We already knew the individual potential on offense, and he's put it together with consistent games back to back. And it's outside the arc, getting to the rim, and he's playing within the flow of the offense. So it's all stuff you love to see.
I do think there is a summer series that you and Daniel could do that could talk about the extremely lucky breaks the Grizzlies have gotten. Because I've mentioned this to you guys before, like, GG cost himself how many millions of dollars by reclassifying and coming out early, right? Like, he's supposed to be in this class. And this class is a weaker class. It just is.
Yeah.
He is a lock to go top 5 this year at minimum. Top 3? I don't know. And now he's on a 4-year, what is it, $6 million or something like that? Like, he cost himself $15 to $20 million, and that the Grizzlies just luck out again.
Yeah.
Like, you could have a whole series about the breaks. You can talk about Bane. You can talk about Gigi. You can talk about Jalen Wells. You can talk about Vince Williams Jr. Like, even Ja Morant, like, getting up to being the number 2 pick. Like, and being sitting at 4, and they have the balls to take Jaren. Sandwiched between Luka and Trae Young. Right.
Yeah,
like, the history of how this team has kind of built, I think, is a really interesting thing that could be investigated. Just the breaks of it.
Well, and this is apt. I do want to point this out because I think it's very apt to what's going on right now and the time of year it is NBA wise. You make your own luck in that way. Like you said, the Grizzlies chose Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, it wasn't this front office, right, so to speak. But they chose Jaren Jackson Jr. They chose Desmond Bane. They chose Gigi Jackson. Right now, there have been some misses. No one's going to deny. Like, no one's more.
Sure, you're not going to bat 100.
Yeah, no one's
1,000. Sorry, incorrect baseball term.
We're all upset that Trey Murphy is on the Pelicans and Zaire Williams
breaks my heart. Yeah,
not on the Grizzlies, but but you do make your own luck, and that's a testament to the front office and their scouting and development. Right, these guys didn't come in playing as well as they've played. Right, not to mention like the Santi Aldamas, Brandon Clarks of the world. So. Sure, we get frustrated about trades. I will be very frustrated if no moves are made tomorrow, to be really clear. The front office has done a really good job with scouting and development, for sure. But I do want to bring up one last thing with GG before we move along. Real quick. Do you think this is realistic? Do you think he should start now? I'm going to say right now, not in the future, because that's an obvious, we could 100% see that.
I don't think he needs to start right now.
Okay.
It's not a necessity. He's still working back in. I'm just going to keep saying this. I don't know if people are going to get it. Everybody has a comment where it's dumb and all that stuff, but the Grizzlies are going to be the best in their playoffs and advance as far as they can with Jaren Jackson at the 5. That is just true. It is what's going to happen. If they want to succeed in the playoffs, Jaren is going to have to be the 5. Now you're talking about, is it Gigi? Is it Vince? Who's the other guy that can kind of hold up in that position, right? Gigi's trajectory would lean me to say Gigi because of the offensive ability. If the defense catches back up, Vince is just a menace on defense, right? And he can facilitate a little bit, not like an extreme creator, but he can a little bit, right? So that's probably where the differences between Vince and Gigi are right now. But Gigi's offensive ceiling in a playoff series where we know it slows down again. Last year, it was super physical. You need to create space. You need bigger bodies. Gigi is kind of that prototype. If he can hold up physically, defensively. That's what we don't know. But that is kind of, I think, the path going forward for elite playoff runs is if it's not Gigi for some reason, which I don't expect why it wouldn't be, but it's an archetype like that goes beside Jaren, right? We see it with BC. BC is quote unquote the 5, but Jaren is kind of doing most of the 5 things. And BC's out there on the perimeter, switching on all the guards, getting picked on. BC just doesn't have the perimeter 3 that we can rely on, but he's elite at floaters, which is the release for that. Yep. So, now I don't think it's a necessity currently. Like you're 9-1 in your last 10 doing what you're doing. Playoff time, I am going to probably lean to either Gigi or Vince moving into that starting lineup.
Yeah. And I'm actually with D'Angelo here. Shout out to D'Angelo coming back to the show. I actually like this. I do. It won't happen, just to be really clear. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up.
Yeah.
But I do like this. I do think this would fit really, really well. Because I like Kennard as the backup point guard. I have said it before and before. I think playmaker Luke has been a bit of a revelation. Avatar State Jake. Avatar State Luke. Sorry, Jake just rolls off the tongue there, but we haven't seen Avatar State Jake, I don't think. Maybe the 1-3 that turned that game around against Houston. But I do like this. We won't see it, but I do like that. I'm with you. The Grizzlies' best lineup, in my opinion, is Ja, Dez, BC, Jaren, insert wing.
Okay.
Now, who that wing is, I think right now you'd probably say Marcus Smart, assuming health and fitness. Listen, the dude has been beat up. I would not be in great shape either. You have some grace there. Cam Johnson, obviously, I think there's real smoke there. This go around, could be that, but insert wing, and Gigi could absolutely be that wing. The only question possibly there with Gigi is, does the youth catch up with you come winning time? Does the youth catch up with you in the playoffs against these veteran teams? Is that going to play a factor? If it doesn't, and listen, sometimes you're so young, you don't even know better. You don't even know to be afraid of the lights, right? So I think we can see a lot of stuff with Gigi. I think he absolutely has that potential this year. And I think going forward, it's almost a matter of when, not if, unless you're trying to go Nas Reed, ultimate six man, right? To the point where it's you're so valuable as a six man, we're not going to start, but you're still going to play 30 something minutes, right? Yeah. But Gigi looking awesome. A lot of guys looking awesome tonight. I've seen a lot of people say Vince looked good tonight. I did not see much from Vince. He didn't play a ton in the second half when the game mattered. So I didn't see much, but he was very active when I saw him. So I imagine he was. Lots of good stuff. J Huff rescued from the shadow realm, buried a 3. Love to see that. Santi looked like he had a bit of a rough night, but that's okay.
My favorite stat is that I don't think anybody on the Toronto Raptors scored 15 plus points.
Oh my God.
I think I looked at it before we got on here. I was like, how is that possible?
I don't know. I didn't watch the first half. Didn't need to.
Yeah, I think it was really they hit. I think the only reason they were winning first half is I think they hit 10 threes in the first half, which is not like them. Right. But the second half was like them, and I think they only hit 2 the rest of the game.
They ended up 12 for 42. So
yeah. So I mean, there was that reality, and then the Grizz just rolled.
Yeah. And that's sort of the last thing I had on this game was I didn't watch the first half, so I don't really have good input on it. But my anticipation for this game was the Grizzlies would kind of come out a little bit snoozy and then lock in the second half, which is what really, really good teams do. And I think this team continues to look more and more like themselves every game, playing to the level you want to see them play at, playing with the joy you want to see them playing with, which a lot of people are going to think that's lame and hippie stuff. Playing with joy matters. But Ryan, anything else you want to hit on this game before we move on?
No. Let's get to Saturday.
Okay. Getting to Saturday. Hold up. Wait a minute. I have a bit of a surprise, especially for our guy, King Meeks, if you're here. Ooh, baby. Other side of the aisle tonight. Other outside. Daniel, if you use an adult word, I was going to pull your comment up. I knew you'd be excited. But we're doing a little bit of trivia. The Grizz part of this trivia is going to be very slow. It's a very loose connection to the Grizz. But you got to give me some grace. I do make the connection. But pull this up sometime during the third quarter. We're going to make it happen. Tonight, we had the Naismith Cup. The Battle of Vancouver and Toronto. Kind of. Sort of, kind of. In honor of that, getting back to the Canadian roots, despite the fact they're trying to boo the national anthem. It's okay. Have fun being the 51st state. But we're going to get to some Canadian trivia tonight. Kind of tie it into the Grizzlies. Ryan, this is a 2-part Grizz Trivia. You can almost say a 4-part Grizz Trivia.
Let me lock in.
Stick with 2 so you're not overwhelmed. How many Canadians are in the Naismith Hall of Fame? Do you know? This is born Canadians. Canadians born and raised.
I'm afraid to answer too low and like offend the nation of Canada.
Don't be afraid. Other than Ryan Reynolds, we don't care if they're offended.
I'm gonna say 7.
You are way too generous. The answer is 2.
Oh,
shout out to King Meeks. King Meeks with the 2. Chuck with the classic answer. Nice. But King Meeks had it right. It's 2. It's 2. Now, it's only 2.
Okay.
Do you know who those 2 are? I'll give you a hint. One of them, I had no idea what their name was before tonight. One of them, every NBA fan knows who they are.
That's born Canadian.
I'll give you another Canadian hint. They are both as white as you and I.
Of course, the like ultimate white guy is Brian Cardinal. It's the very first person I can think of.
We'll tell you the chat has gotten one of them.
Really?
Chat has gotten one of them.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay. So Steve Nash. Okay. Yeah.
Nash is one. Shout out to Chuck and Black Ninja DJ. Got that really quick. I will tell you, King Meeks only got one of them right, but he got the first part of someone else's name right. If you got another part to this, if you want to just give up, I've got you. We have it in the chat. I think it was looked up. I don't think you knew this off the top of your head, but we have it.
Well, I can't wait to hear the name.
Bob Hubergs. There's no way Rage Tempo knew who that was. I don't believe you. I don't think you knew who that was. That was Googled. It was, as King said, some guy named Bob. Some guy named Bob. Now, that's the first part of Grizz Trivia. So shout out Canada, kinda. We got shout out to Goon. One more coming your way at least. SGA seems like he's well on his way, to be honest. But second part of this, and this does have some Grizz tie-ins.
Okay.
How many Hall of Famers have played for a Canadian team, and who are they? I'm happy to give you the number if you just want to skip straight to who are they.
Just like played in Toronto or Vancouver at some point. I mean, I immediately think of Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady.
Okay.
Well, no, he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. I would have said Marc Gasol, but I don't, he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. How many is there total?
There's 5. There's 5, and I will say you've gotten 2 of them. They are the 2 who people would identify as Raptors. The rest of these played in Toronto, but no one would think of them as Toronto Raptors.
I know, didn't Hakeem Olajuwon having a run in Toronto?
Hakeem, you have gotten 3. Okay. So we've gotten T-Mac, Vince.
Did Charles Barkley have a run in Toronto? No,
he did not.
That's Houston.
He did not. 2 left.
That played Chris. No, did they put Chris Bosh in the Hall of Fame? They did. Okay.
Chris Bosh was. I actually meant he was the other one who people would identify as Raptor, not Tracy McGrady. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chris Bosh was the other one that people would see as Raptor. A lot of people would see him as Heat. That just means that they're young bloods. So Chris Bosh, you have one more. I had no idea this guy played in Toronto ever. Just to be really clear.
No clue. I couldn't even.
I'll give you a hint.
It would take me forever to even think about it.
I'll give you a hint. He is still involved with an NBA team, heavily involved in an NBA team that wears red.
Heavily involved in an NBA team that wears red.
Mm-hmm.
Boy. I can't think of anyone.
You
just
give
completely blanking.
Give up. Chauncey Billups.
Oh, okay.
Had no idea he played in Toronto.
Was that at the end of his career?
I would assume. I would assume.
Did he retire a Piston?
I don't remember where he retired.
I don't remember that at all.
But at some point, he was a Toronto Raptor. I found out tonight. So, the other side of Grizz Trivia. It's nice to be on this side. Shout out Chuck, Ryan Reynolds, honorary Toronto Raptor, I'm sure. But fun fact of that, none of these guys played for Vancouver.
Absolutely no one.
None of them. I guess technically Vince Carter. There you go. There's the Grizzlies tie-in. Vince Carter played for the Memphis franchise.
Yeah, I was like, Mike Bibby's not in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, did he play in Vancouver?
But that is Grizz Trivia. The tie-in is that the Grizzlies used to be in Canada and Vince Carter used to be a Grizzly. So, loosely tied to Grizz Trivia, but fun all the same. Thanks all for playing King Meeks. That was especially for you. All right. Let's get to it. Bringing back our guy, Titan MVP. We're going to screw to look ahead tonight. We got Ryan in person. We're going to go tinfoil hat. Grizzlies trade deadline. So before we even get into the Grizzlies making a trade, besides Luka Doncic, obviously, what's been the most surprising move, good or bad, you've seen so far?
I wouldn't say the Jimmy Butler to Golden State is surprising, because I think I told Daniel on Sunday, like, all the pressure was on the Warriors to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what that's going to look like. Like, you've got Draymond and Jimmy in that locker room. There is absolutely no time. They could be best friends. Like, they might be, or the worst of friends. Yeah. But no, the one that was like made a lot of sense to me was De'Aaron Fox. And the Kings just kind of like, hey, let's be the Bulls of the West in a much harder conference. Let's run that back. The one that, obviously for the Lakers, like, you get Luka. Okay, you win. Right? You win the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But the De'Aaron Fox one to San Antonio, I just really like.
Yeah.
I think the pairing makes a lot of sense. And it's like little things. Like, there is, showing it off.
Keep it going. Keep it going. I just want to give the people what they want. Everybody wants to know every night.
There's like little subtle things, like De'Aaron Fox being a left-handed player, and Wembanyama being a right-handed roller, like, there's little things like that.
Never would I thought about that.
No, have you ever heard about that? Like, left-handers score typically like 3 to 5 more points than right-handers because it just throws off.
I have heard that, but I just would have never popped in my head.
Yeah, there's something about like rolling and going to your left hand, which was like driving me crazy for years when, remember when our offense used to be just Ja come up the right side and we set a side pick and roll for him and he goes to the middle. And that was going to his quote unquote weak hand to his left. That kind of stuff never really made sense to me, but like, this makes a lot of sense just for like the court dynamics. Because now he can pull up if people go under because it's going to his left, right? It opens up both sides. So I really like that one. Shocking, I don't know of one that's like shocking, but we've still got a whole day to go.
Yeah, it's coming, right? I do want to pull this up real quick before we get back to the serious talk. Daniel put in here, why is only the West getting better? And I kid you not, AC Surreal said exactly what my internal thought was, which the East is cheeks. That is exactly what my answer was going to be to that. The East is cheeks. I do love the Kings seeing the Bulls have those mid-ass teams for like 3 or 4 years in a row. And it's like, we want that.
Let's go back to that. That was the greatest time in our franchise when we were like that.
Okay, let's do that then.
Not much light in the beam going to be going on probably anymore.
I mean, maybe they figure it out. Levine is awesome. I have been always said I think DeMar DeRozan is one of like the best NBA players that can't help you win a championship ever.
Yeah.
That's super annoying watching him pump fake to free throws, but that's okay. The Kings, I'm with you. I think between the Kings and then the Lakers getting Luka for I mean, not even pennies on the dollar, like pesos on the dollar was what they got it for, essentially. Despite that, AD is a great player. I think AD is an amazing player. But when you look at the future trajectory of a franchise with the minimal likelihood of AD winning you a championship, it's an insane trade to me to pull off. That and then De'Aaron Fox with Wemby was what everybody's like, not this year probably because of how it's gone, but next year, man, next year going forward, that's going to be tough. So I'm with you on that. Not shocking, but confusing. Kuzma to the Bucks.
Yeah, that was weird. You're right. That's probably a shocking one.
It wasn't like one of those where I'm like, that's a terrible trade, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know what you really got.
Doing? Yeah.
But
what are we accomplishing?
I'm not sure you got better. You could have gotten better. You could have easily gotten worse. And you sent a guy who helped you win a championship that's been sort of a franchise mainstay to the shadow realm of Washington, which is not a good look necessarily. So it's a business. We all know it's a business, but still. Getting back to Titan MVP's question, tying this all into Memphis. I want to bring it to one thing you were talking about earlier because there's just a tiny bit, like Tom Hanks just started twiddling the stick, but a tiny bit of smoke on Draymond to Memphis because you were just talking about that.
That's news to me.
Again, just twiddling the stick, just a little bit of smoke. More so coming from smoke from seasons past where he talked about almost signing with Memphis, and the fact that are Jimmy and Draymond get along? Is that something that the Wizards want to, or not the Wizards, the Warriors want to invest in? Just looking at it from a perspective of if it would happen, how would you feel about Draymond in Memphis?
I wouldn't love it.
No.
I respect Draymond as the player that he's been, right? Mm-hmm. Like I've hated him for forever, to be honest with you, but I respect him for what his game is. And his game is let Steph do everything. And we're just not built the same way. So what does that look like in our system at his age? Not saying that he might be helpful in some aspects, especially defensively, right? And another vocal leader. But I just don't think he's not the guy that I think makes sense, right?
Listen, this kind of went the way I was hoping it was going to go. We got a pretty strong opinion from the chat family on if Draymond came in here, including Daniel, who said he'd quit the show. So maybe we need Draymond to come to the Grizzlies, just to be clear.
But he sees because he knows. Like Draymond is not stupid. Like he does stupid things, but he's not an idiot. Like he can forecast and see where the trajectory of this team is going. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Right.
Yeah.
And it's just let me get on the coattails of that team, and I can be the guy that elevated them to the next level when they were heading there already, right?
Right.
But you get that a lot with the guys kind of towards the tail end of their career. They start joining teams, and then that team wins just because the youth built into that team ascended anyways. And they're like, yeah, I'm the veteran presence that helped push them over the edge. Okay, dude.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. Like Draymond of years past brought a level of basketball that I think really helps the team. He might still have that. Like, I don't think you get worse as a basketball team with Draymond here. But are there more effective moves to be made? Yeah. And do those include me not having to cheer for Draymond Green? I think probably so. So I did want to see that. I just want to see we got people a little bit fired up. That's kind of what I was hoping for. Let's get back to the meat of the question from Titan MVP here. He has been waiting forever for us to actually get into the question realistically.
Yeah.
Do the Grizzlies need to make a trade? Do they need to make a trade given the season and everything surrounding it?
I have thought about this a lot because obviously it's trade week and you want to come up with something that would make you look like a genius that pushes the Grizzlies over the top, right? And I don't think they need to.
Okay.
I'm perfectly okay with getting Cam Johnson. I will not oppose it. Is Cam Johnson the ceiling raiser to where all of a sudden we're a heavyweight that's on a crash course with OKC in the Western Conference Finals? Probably not. He is a really good, like, fourth or fifth guy, you know? It's kind of like the Scotty Barnes issue. Like, Scotty Barnes, the number one in your team, well, you're going to be like what the Raptors are, right? But as your fourth guy, elite, you know? In this scenario, he could be elite, an absolutely elite role player. I don't know if it's the difference between making a Western Conference Finals or not. That I can't commit to. So, and I'm not a salary cap contracts person. Like, you tell me how much he's making, and I'll say, okay, right? So I don't know, like, what the future looks like with that. The question is like, are the Nets really motivated to move him? And is the purchase price fair enough for the Grizzlies where it's worth it? You know, like, if it's a consolidation of Marcus Smart and one of Santi, Vince, and, you know, this year's first and whatever swaps in the future, whatever, then sure, that seems like a steal for the Grizzlies. But if it's like, yeah, you got to throw in Smart and you've got to do Santi and one of Wells, GG, Vince, then it's like, okay, I don't know about that, if that's worth it or not.
The other side of that, just to push back a little bit, is the need for consolidation, right? And the problem is you haven't had the evaluation you'd hope you have so far this year, which is tough. I mean, it's just the story of the Grizzlies the past few seasons. Like, you wanted to be able to evaluate Wells versus Vince versus GG, right? Which GG was always like had the upper hand in that, right? Everybody kind of knew the potential of GG that made it a long shot. They would be willing to part with him.
Yeah.
But Vince versus Wells is a real conversation. Like, okay, who really fits that? And Wells has taken the opportunity and absolutely sprinted with it, right? I mean, he's knocked it out of the park with the opportunity he's been given. But you saw a lot of real things out of Vince last year to make it tough. Now, the problem, like, if you can get those guys on great contracts and they both pan out, that's awesome, right? I mean, it's amazing if those guys can both pan out. You get your starting wing, you get your bench wing, and on great contracts, right?
Right.
Realistically, and I talked about this with Daniel before, you're much more likely to go get a veteran wing with playoff experience that's been there before for the next 3 to 4 years, right? Only one of these guys is playing real minutes for you.
Yeah.
But if you're the Grizzlies, you haven't had a real chance to compare with this real roster put together and know who that is. So you're kind of tough. You're in a tough spot of, do you want to consolidate those guys? Like, is it worth consolidating those guys right now? And that brings me to the main question I think all of us sort of have right there, because you got Austin bringing this up. If you don't make a trade, you can't contend for a championship. So this is the question I want to pose to you is, one, do you think the Grizzlies can contend with the roster as built today? Just really short. Do you think yes or no they can?
No, ultimately.
Okay.
They're good, but I don't think they're at that level. I think it's another year, a year and a half.
And here's the deal is you see a lot of this stuff. You see OKC and they seem like this juggernaut. And then you got the Cavs and you got the Celtics out east. Outside of that, I don't think there's a team I don't think the Grizzlies could beat in a playoff series. But those three seem like powerhouses. But then you look at it and you're like, okay, what happens to OKC? And we've all listened to, like, Chris Vernon. We're all Memphians. We listen to Chris Vernon. That's a lot of influence on all of us. I am totally on that mindset of what happens when the Oklahoma City Thunder have to play through not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah. What happens when Lou Dort has to bury a corner three for you, right? Like, it's not like he's a terrible three-point shooter, but what happens? Like, is Dylan Brooks wasn't a terrible three-point shooter, and look what happened there, right? Like, so what happens when that time comes? And anything can happen in that scenario. But here's the flip side of this, and I think you kind of hinted at this a minute ago, is is there a trade out there that does make you a championship contender? Like, is there a player that's realistic out there? And sounds to me like you think no, there's not a move to be made.
I mean, if you're talking about Kevin Durant, if the Suns are looking to move, that's a move. Like, if you want to get splashy, like if you want to just rock this trade deadline to the core, what it costs, no clue. Would it be worth it? No clue.
GG. That's a question. That's a real question.
It's a real question. And that's GG? Where you... It depends on how I evaluate my timeline, right?
Right.
Like, if I want it to be like the Mavs and I've got to win this in the next 2 years because I evaluate, hey, maybe John Morant isn't a guy who's going to be playing into his 30s, then maybe it makes sense, you know? Oh, man. If you want to win right now, KD would be the splash. That would be the move. And I would hate it. It would, the long-term trajectory. I've always been a developmental guy. I like seeing guys grow and hit that benchmark, which has been exciting about Ja, Bane, Jaren, right? We've seen the benchmarks as they've grown. Do you cash in and do you give all the pieces back to the Suns for Kevin Durant? You've built this for 4 years around the periphery of your roster. Yep. Do you cash it in for a 2-year run?
Yep. I am of the opinion that the goal of being an NBA franchise is to win a championship.
I agree.
Like, it is the basis on which I found everything I believe about the NBA. Other than like the point is to have joy. Like I said earlier, like you need to have fun playing this game. If you're not having fun being a fan, much less having fun playing the game, and none of it's worth it. But the goal is to win a championship. If you send out GG plus Vince plus whatever, and once I decide, I don't think that guts your franchise. I don't think you gut your franchise going forward. I think you have so much to still build around. There's there, but if you win a championship, I'm like, okay, you won a championship. Because you are betting a lot on what could be versus what is.
Well, let's just talk about the Toronto Raptors game tonight. Like, would you trade in a Toronto Raptors team that's right now? It's been, 5 years since they won a championship? Would you trade it in for that championship? And I would think most fans would say yes. And so if you want to do it, that's the move, because you still have Jaren Ja. The front office has proven that they can find things to put around. And you still have Bane. Sorry, he didn't play tonight, so he's just not on my mind. No offense to Bane.
Good. But that's what it comes down to, right?
If you keep those three, and you still got people like BC, if Suns say, you can keep Marcus Smart. Like, you still have Marcus Smart. We'll take GG, Jalen, your picks, and who else? Santi. You still have the main, like that 4. Like, it's incredible, right?
Well,
it's a pretty awesome 4.
First off, everybody, $2 show tomorrow, noon Central Time. Check it out. I won't be there because I'm just selling out to the man, but they'll be there all the way through the trade deadline, taking you through it. Definitely join in. It's bound to get insane. If it's not, I'm sorry. It's not their fault. Have a drink with them. But check in tomorrow. They're going to be there for you in the middle of the day. They're out there
on your lunch break. Yeah.
Join them. Yeah. But I'm glad Jack Move Johnny put this in here, because it's part of what I get torn about as a Memphis Grizzlies fan.
It's hard.
Memphians are built different.
Yeah.
Like, the way that all the Dallas fans were attached to Luka Doncic is the way the Grizzlies fan get attached to that like 4th or 5th cult guy, right? Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm biased. I think Memphians have a special love for their players in a way that nobody else does. I mean, you're getting the Core Force jerseys and the Raptors, right? And they made it to Western Conference Finals. They got, not to bring up sore wounds, but they got destroyed in the Western Conference Finals, right? First every day, and we love those guys. Would not absolutely adore them.
Yeah.
We do get attached to that. Part of me always wonders, are we too attached to guys who are, I mean, realistically, you look at Gigi, he's how far down the roster this year as far as impacts, right? Wells, been amazing, but he's a rookie who we could easily slide ABC player in and have the same performance level. That's something special about Memphis fandom. So I don't want to discount it, right? Memphis fandom, loving the players, making it feel like you are a part of a family. Kind of like we feel about our chat here. It's why we do the show, right? It's a family feel.
Yeah.
I don't want to discount it. Does that prohibit you from making the necessary moves to go win a championship? Right? Because, listen, that's a real feeling. None of us want to get rid of Gigi or Vince or Jalen Wells, right? I mean, Edie, we all love the way that Edie's sitting there stepping up for Ja in the moment, right? There's so many things we love. Do we get too attached as Memphians?
Yeah. It's hard because it's not guaranteed, right? Trading for 36-year-old Kevin Durant does not guarantee a championship. Just the same as, the Lakers trading for 25-year-old Luka Doncic does not guarantee them a championship in the next 8 years. It doesn't. There are a million things that can happen in between now and then. And you make this move, it could blow up, right? Or, like you said, we could do it. We could actually make it.
Right.
And I think it's mostly the unknown that always has people unsure of making big splashy moves like this when you see the potential in the young players that we do have to fit around our young superstars. That's the thing. Potential over proven, right?
Well, and then bringing in Brian James, this is where you get into the sliding doors moment, right? What if Gigi becomes the next KD, right? And
it's possible.
What I hope everyone 100%. Gets out of this, and Ryan, I do want you to keep going, but it's hard to be an NBA GM.
That's the thing, and that's why we pay. That's why Zach Kleiman is paid. That's why Nico Harrison is paid to make that decision. Will it ultimately cost him his job? Probably. But he felt in that moment he had to make that move. I think a lot of frustration for Grizzlies fans is that Zach Kleiman has not made an all-in move like that, right? It's been, we'll punt it to next year, whether that's by circumstance. We had a team with Kyle Anderson, D'Anthony Melton that, I don't know if they beat the Warriors, right? The Warriors went on to win the championship. Yeah, that was that year, right? Well, they won the championship. I lost to him in the second round, but they punted on that team and did a little bit of a reset. And we've just been compiling all these pieces in and out.
Right. And
we haven't had the true, go for the one thing,
right,
to put us all together. And that's a hard job.
Yep.
Because most of these guys want to keep their jobs.
Right.
But how long do you want to be? How long is being second or third in the West and losing second round? How long is that good enough?
Right.
I think for me, if you can get Kevin Durant and you aren't giving up any of your core three, which is going to be really, really tough, but also you don't give up Gigi,
yeah,
you make the move. I personally don't think it's possible. I don't think you can make that move. I don't know if there's any way the Suns make any move at this point, right? Jimmy Butler's off the table.
So.
I sort of don't think so. I think this is sort of a moot point after the Jimmy trade today.
It's fun.
But right, this is the kind of conversation that these guys are having back and forth. And I think as a GM, you take your heart out of it, right? What puts championship on the table for you? And that's why you see these big moves being made. Nico Harrison, exempt from that comment, by the way.
Well, can I add a layer? I don't know how much longer we go. I'm sorry, but
no, I don't want to go much longer. But you are allowed to add a short layer, small layer.
Well, this is a question for you. If the Suns did say that and it was a package, and it's all right, whatever is 3 other players, picks whatever, and the choice is between Gigi or Bane. Which one do you choose? That's a real Sophie's choice right there.
I plead the fifth. Shout out Dave Chappelle for giving me an out. In all seriousness, just to answer the question, to give you, I think I probably don't. I think I probably don't make that trade. In all seriousness, I don't think I make that trade. If I'm doing one, I think it's got to be Dez.
Oh, okay.
Because
unfortunately, I agree with you.
Yeah, and here's why. I think
size is size wins.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. There's no right answer to that, right? Like
there's not.
Like Lauren's saying, I'm getting tomatoed out of the way. Like I'm getting tarred and feathered no matter what. Certain fans are going to hate me.
My fault.
It's to be clear, I just don't think you make the trade because there's no guarantee, and you already have these guys on your roster, right? Like I don't think you make the trade. Is my answer.
Right.
If I'm choosing one, I think I'm choosing Dez, and this is going to sound terrible, but I think it's because if you get them like both, like they become what they're supposed to be. Like they become what you can see in them. Yeah. Dez is much more what he brings to the table is much easier to find than what you find in Gigi. Right? Like Gigi has the potential to be a dynamic scorer at basically 7 foot. I mean, he looks like Jaren. I mean, he's so big on the floor.
In a year, you can see the obvious bulk that he has put on. Like, where's he going to be when he's 24?
Not to mention what he's
body type wise. Yeah.
But here's the other side of that. Here's the reason you don't make the trade at all. Gigi, like maybe Gigi just becomes that now. Like we've seen 2 consistent games out of him in a row. Maybe he explodes right now. At that point, like, oh my, like, good God, what is the limit? Truth be told, what you're probably doing is you're trading away a piece that you need to win a championship to go sell out for a championship right now. So, like, you don't make that trade, right? Because you don't trade Dez trying to win a championship right now this year. And that's what the KD move is. Yeah. So, doesn't make any sense to me to do that if either of those guys are involved, to be honest. And like I said, with Gigi, I think that the future could be as soon as tonight. You just don't know.
Totally possible.
You just don't know. And if he is, I think you and me would both agree. If the future is as soon as tonight, the Grizzlies can contend for a championship with this roster, right? Listen, this is why I wanted to have this conversation. I know we went way long. Daniel's probably like sitting there with his head exploding. He's like, an hour, 20 minutes. Good God, Nate, go to bed.
He's I gotta upload floating around in the pool.
I gotta get this uploaded to Spotify and change the title. Whatever, man. He's at Disney World. He's probably hammered. But that's why I want to have the conversation because, truth be told, we have all these conversations. You got guys making moves like Zach Kleiman. You got guys making moves like Nico Harrison, and they both think they're right. Actually, I'm not positive Nico thinks he's right. I think he might have a job with the Lakers in 6 months.
His was purely just.
I think
payback motivated. It was purely personal vendetta. There's no other explanation.
I work with a guy who's a big Sixers fan, and he is dead set on collusion. I thought about having him on the show tonight, but I was like, okay, maybe not. But all this happens, and then something random happens, and someone wins the championship.
Yeah,
right. Like the Grizzlies could just like boom. Maybe we've seen the Grizzlies just become what they're going to be, and they do this to every team from now on. You never know. That's why it's a lot of fun. That's why we watch and we pray that the FanDuel sponsorship hasn't rigged the game. But that's a lot of fun, man. I appreciate Titan MVP. Shout out to you, man. Great question. Thanks for coming in as always. Ryan, we got a Thunder coming up. We got some fun games. Anything coming up you want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I think the Saturday's game is going to be a pretty good barometer of where we're at pre-All-Star break, right? Unfortunately, it happens after the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very excited to have that. Hopefully everybody pretty much healthy.
Yeah, that's the main thing I'm looking for. I would hold Dez out until the All-Star break, personally. I thought they'd hold Ja out until the All-Star break, but then it turns out he might have been lying. I don't think he was lying. To be clear, that is a joke.
Dude,
some of the kids don't know what that is anymore.
If there's an ESPN or a TNT beside a game of the Grizzlies, just Ja's not playing in it.
Yeah, it's like I was looking up. I was like, "When's the next TNT game?" And it's soon.
I'll take that night off.
Yeah, it's against the Suns on next Tuesday. Wow, they got a lot of nights off. They got 2 nights off before the next game and the game after that. Cool. Then a back-to-back, of course. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's fun to see the team playing. I hate Dez is hurt because everybody's getting healthy, but it's probably the best time. Should get a break and probably not probably, but good chance of a roster shakeup coming in as well. But I think that is going to be it for us tonight. Again, join the $2 Sports Show tomorrow, noon Central Time. They're going to be your guys taking you through the trade deadline. They're going to show you all the way through. It's going to be a great time. Definitely join in. Again, I'm selling out to the man. But other than that, we will see you again next week. Maybe a surprise show on Saturday. We'll see. We'll see how the game goes. But if nothing else, we'll see you on Tuesday against the Suns. Till then, everybody have a safe trade deadline. Have yourself a safe weekend. And other than that, be nice. Tell your friends.